Hi, I wanted to come and provide some additional information for those people in the proximity marketing space. It's very interesting that I'm not being called out directly, but there's definitely some innuendo regarding some messaging that I provided publicly on YouTube and some other platforms regarding the veracity of some of the claims regarding proximity marketing. Someone recently did a video that was referencing haters and introduced the word scam. I would say that that is a false representation of anything that I am bringing to the live streaming and or recorded market. I have not used the word scam. I have also made some comments in other areas, and I have never used the word scam. And I am just sharing the truth. So I want to be an ally or an advocate for how to maintain value in the proximity marketing space. And I just wanted to put this presentation together so people could make their own educated decisions. So I apologize, I need to look over at the other screen here. But for those which are exploring proximity marketing, don't accept on face value what you hear. This is the domain of caveat emptor, buyer beware. And your limit in doing due diligence is no one else's fault but your own. And I'm just going to be bringing to light some things that you should be asking those beacon providers. Just get their response. That way you can make a decision as to what kind of value you're going to provide for your clients. And maybe your clients are just buying beacons. Maybe that is your entire business is about selling beacons, not the value attached to beacons, which is totally fine. That's why using the word scam is completely inappropriate for what I'm bringing to the market. I'm just talking about how to bring greater value than just selling a beacon. So anyway, now if none of these issues concern you, ask yourself, will they concern a potential client? And why wouldn't you bring these issues to a particular client's attention? So we're going to go through a couple of them here. So what we refer to it is called hide and go seek messaging. This is not a message that is a phone vibrating, tone generating message. You actually have to be active and go out and seek the message. So these are a few things that you should know in advance of dropping down 60, 20, 100, 200, 600, whatever amount of money you make a decision to purchase beacons. These are some things that we feel that are a benefit for you to know. Now you can take this video and go through it, and I say, before you make that purchase, ask the people that you're buying those beacons from these questions. And I would like to say, if they disagree with me, I invite them to do a response video and take each one of my bullet points and say where I'm incorrect, because this is based upon our testing, our experimentation, and a deeper knowledge of the technology. So let's get started. First of all, messages are passive, and we're going to go into detail each one of these, but I'm going to enumerate them first and then expand on them a little bit further. So messages are passive. Android devices require Google Nearby enabled. Android devices require your location settings to be enabled. Android devices require your Bluetooth activation to be enabled. Android devices requires your Chrome browser installed. Android smartphone user must be within the proximity of a beacon for a specified period of time. Android smartphone user must be active on the phone while in proximity to the message. The message disappears if you wander outside the range of the beacon. Android smartphone user must look for the message. So that starts looking for the messages tied to the messages passive. You don't know you've received a message unless you're on your phone and you go seek and you see if you have a message. They don't pop up the same way. So let's go with the first one. Messages are passive. The smartphone has no visual, audible, or vibrating indication that a message is delivered to your phone. So you're not going to get a flashing LED signal. Your screen is not going to illuminate. You're not going to get a tone, and you're not going to get it vibrating. This is a limitation of Google's Nearby platform. to prevent spam messaging using Bluetooth technology. It's tied to their nearby platform, and it's the requirement for those people that are using this technology is that it's passive, so it's not going to vibrate, it's not going to do a visual indication, it's not going to send a sound out. All messaging is subject to the approval and compliance of Google's terms of service. The message and the beacon can be shut down by Google at any time. This is important to note that in your messaging on a beacon, if you, under the interpretation of Google, if they perceive your message to be spammy or outside the terms and conditions, they can stop your message from going forward, and they can also deactivate your beacon. These are kind of things that are not brought to your attention in others' presentation, but it's important information to know. Disagree, go back to the people that are talking to your beacons and ask this question. Android device requires Google Nearby enabled. So Google Nearby is a native application pre-installed on Android phones. For a message to be received, smartphone user must make sure the application is enabled on their Android device. Message will not appear without this being enabled, along with several other steps. So there's multiple steps that have to happen in order for that message to potentially appear. This is just another one of them. Android device requires your location settings enabled. If the Android setting configuration location settings must be enabled. So when you're configuring your Android phone, not everybody has their location settings. I'm going to point to that in a second. Enabling location settings is a privacy and security risk. Now, not many people are privacy minded or security minded. Most people read terms of service, click I agree, and have no understanding of the risk. So location tracking of your device allows other applications, specifically Google, to track every step and archive your travels and share that data with other companies. So if you have your location settings on and you're on vacation in Orlando, Florida, Google knows that. They know which you're going into Belk, and they know which entrance you're going into Belk, and they know which departments you're navigating through. So if you have your location settings on, all you have is a beacon that's going out to Google telling everybody where you're going. Not many people are concerned about that. We provide other education to help people understand those security risks, but that's outside the beacon message. Android devices require your Bluetooth to be enabled. Now, many users do not have their Bluetooth enabled due to concerns of reducing the smartphone battery's life. In the past, that was a real issue. That issue, based upon the advancement of technology, is not as problematic as it once was before, but many people still have that stigma that they don't want to drain their battery because they have their Bluetooth on. Smartphone users which routinely connect to Bluetooth devices may have their Bluetooth already enabled. This gives them to connect to printers at home. Maybe they have Bluetooth headsets. Maybe they're connected to their car via Bluetooth, so maybe they just leave it on. Percentage of people will do that. A message will not be capable of being received without the Bluetooth enabled. Another one of those limitations that we're pointing to. Android device requires Chrome browser to be the default browser. So Google Chrome is native installed on Android devices. Now, your phone cannot be set to a default browser other than Chrome. So you may have Firefox, you may have Brave, you may have another browser installed on your phone, but that's going to reduce the ability for that message. It's designed to function inside the Chrome browser. And the message will not be received without that Chrome as default. Now, that's not 100% absolute, but that's one of the requirements that Google has put forward. Android smartphone user must be active on the phone while in proximity of the beacon. The message disappears if you're out of the range of the beacon. So the Bluetooth beacon has a signal range that it's going to put a ping out, and it's going to send a signal that's a transmission, and your smartphone is your receiver device. Now, many limitations exist that reduce the ability of the smartphone, the receiver, to receive that connecting beacon message, the transmission side. Now, distance is a function of the power of the beacon. So different beacon manufacturers have different batteries, which have different signal strength, and that determines the capability of that signal distance being longer. It's also a function of a particular device. So depending upon which chipset manufacturer they use, and again to that battery and power, is to the distance that goes out. Distance is limited by interferences such as buildings, trees, vehicles, and humans. The signal does have limited ability to transfer through objects. Now, representations of messaging distance in excess of line of sight, meaning unobstructed, beyond 300 feet, they have no data or evidence. So right now, you have to have all of these configurations set in order for that message to appear on the phone. So assume you have all of that. Now you want to figure out what the distance is. There is no evidence there's no evidence or data that verifies outside of 300 feet that message signal is strong enough to keep that phone. So, and that's assuming you're staying inside that radius. So that data is not out there. There's people making statements of some pretty incredible distances, but they're not mentioning any of these limitations, and they're not talking about how long you need to be in the proximity of that beacon. So let's keep going. Android smartphone user must be within proximity of a beacon for a specified period of time. Now, this varies per beacon manufacturer as to what period of time you need to be in that proximity of the beacon. Now, not only do you need to be in the proximity of the beacon, first of all, let me read through this. The messaging which is facilitated through the beacon only appears during the time you are near the beacon. The messaging disappears when you exit the range of the beacon. So, when the beacon is sending that signal out to the phone and it's pulsing out to your receiver here, if you cross through it and you're not on your phone, you don't have all of those settings configured, and you're not on your phone at that time that you cross through the radius or the diameter of the signal, you don't get the message. You don't see it. It may connect, may be sent to your phone, but if you go in and out of the proximity based upon that duration of time, which varies per device, they do not publish as to how long you need to be in the proximity of the beacon for the message, and you have to be able to see it at the same time. It's a little confusing, I apologize for that, but this is a little bit more technical, but it's important information if you want to present this as strong value to your clients, whatever that client is. This is not, if you want to sell a beacon, you really don't care about this stuff, but you want to sell the value of a beacon and the value of proximity marketing. This is important information for you to be transparent with, consider being transparent with your clients. Android smartphone user must look for the message. I made that point earlier that you have to actually, a message signal might be sent to a phone if all the previous steps have been accomplished, but in order for a message to be seen or viewed, the smartphone user must be active on their smartphone and actually scroll to find the message. That's why we call it hide and go seek messaging. You actually have to go in search of that message. You have to be trained to have all of these settings configured and know that you should be looking for beacon messaging. I'm going to touch on that in just a moment. So words mean something. This is part of the creative salesmanship tied to the marketing and promotion of beacons. So let's go through some of this a little bit. An impression. This is a word which indicates that a smartphone has connected with the Bluetooth device. Let me say that slowly. The beacon has transmitted a signal, and the Bluetooth, a Android device, has pierced the proximity of that beacon, and a connection has been established. If that happens, that's recorded as an impression. A transmission and a receiver have connected, and that is an impression. Very important to identify that because we're going to dive in just one second. It is not a It is not a confirmation that a message has been viewed. It provides no data other than a device has been reached, other than a signal has been connected. So it's not a confirmation that somebody's seen the message. It's just that those two signals have connected, the transmitter and the receiver. Somebody walked through the proximity. Okay? Now, this is a very important piece of the marketing language. 40 characters is critical. When you're configuring a beacon, you have 40 characters, which can be emojis and alphanumerics. The 40 character message is critical, and there's a reason they tell you it's critical. Beacon providers say your 40 character message is how to get data. A message might be viewed, but getting a click is up to what your message states. So that 40 character message is an invitation for somebody to click, and then when they click on your message, something else happens. So no data is available on a click without paying a premium fee or advanced training or knowledge of other internet tools. So if you're a website administrator and you know how to manage your clicks on a website, and you put a hyperlink in there to a website or to a landing page or whatever you do that, if you know how to do the configurations to track the clicks in that fashion to IP addresses and other identifiable information, or you have other tools, fantastic for you. In order to use the beacon provider's material, in order to gain any data from that click, not as much as you would be able to have from the internet tools, you're just getting a confirmation of a click. And you can find out which beacons have gotten clicks. But if you want to do something more powerful to get additional data, you have to pay an additional fee per month per beacon to get this access to very limited data, very, very limited data. It is data nonetheless, but it is not a verified email address, it's not a phone number, it's not the device type, it's not geolocation, it's not data other than the data of that transaction of the click, or your limited ability to capture information from the click in your website. Not too many people are skilled and detailed on how to capture that. Here's another limitation of the 40 characters. Google's terms and conditions spell out what they consider as spam, along with the conditions on link shorteners. So there's various platforms that you can take a long URL and put it into a link shortener and shorten it and put it into as a hyperlink within your 40 character message. Google has some things to say about that. Google can terminate your message and your beacon device at any time. So without going through Google's terms and conditions and their privacy statement, it's not up to you to determine what is spam. That's not up to you. Google determines what is up to spam. I don't know what your experience is with what the Court of Appeals is with social media sites when they take down certain information, but generally you do not have a court of appeal in pleading your case on what you feel is a violation of the enforcement of the terms of service. Just thought I'd share that element as well. iOS is coming. This is another very interesting statement. Some manufacturers have represented to hold on tight, iOS is coming, and you won't need an app for using the iOS functionality. Presently, for beacon messaging to appear on an iOS device, you need to download an app, just like the Google Nearby. That's an app. There's another app for iOS called Physical Web. Very, very few people know about that application or have it downloaded on their phone. But in that instance, you can go to the Physical Web app and you can see beacons that are in that area. But it requires an app. But certain beacon manufacturers are representing that they will have an iOS Bluetooth beacon solution that won't require an app. Now, representations of iOS communicating with the Bluetooth beacon without an application have not been presented as available through Apple. So Apple is very concerned about this kind of messaging passively on their device outside of an app, and they do not make that technology presently available. It's not recorded or reported or even discussed about in the developer community or presented as available from Apple. So I'm just saying due diligence is if you're banking on that happening, go see what Apple is saying. It does work. Bluetooth beacon does work within the physical web application, and it can work when it's tied to an individual application. Now, there's a bit of software development and a software development kit in order to integrate any particular vendor's beacon into a homebrew or a custom application, downloadable app. The hide and go see messaging, I don't believe all beacon providers are providing access to the SDK to have it configured with someone else's app. I know certain beacon manufacturers make the SDK available, the software developers kit, I apologize, the software developers kit, to integrate it into a private app. For example, we have created a local app, and we have in that app, it's a community-based app. So it's based upon supporting the merchants and the athletic organizations in the local community, and all of those individuals that are associated with those business or athletic communities, the softball and the baseball and the soccer and such, they all download this app. And we can use Bluetooth messaging inside of that app when they go into proximity of the park where they're going to be playing soccer, and said, oh, we've moved over from field 3 to field 2, and everybody in proximity knows that they move over to field 2 because they get this message. However, when it's inside the app with the iOS, it's not a passive message. It's an active push notification. But that's on the software developer side that has to happen. That's not a native function of Bluetooth messaging. And particularly to the one, if you can discern when I use the word go in green as to that particular brand that's being represented out there, they don't provide access to an SDK, and they don't have an integration for app developers that can do active notifications. Presently, that may be something they're going to be talking about, I guess, in Dallas or something, but who knows? Ground floor opportunity. This is what we hear a lot in the beacon proximity marketing messaging, that Bluetooth beacon messaging is not a new technology. It is not new. There's been major corporations that have been using the Bluetooth communications process for a number of years. It actually started out in commercial warehousing in order to be able to track assets and or equipment. Been used in heavy machinery. It's been for asset management. So you've had two different technologies that have been competing technologies: RFID, which is incredibly powerful, and the Bluetooth piece. So Bluetooth is now, its primary mission isn't for proximity messaging. It's a hybrid solution, but that's not the predominant solution for that Bluetooth technology. So it's not new. It was even used in consumer electronics, that you have the ability for Bluetooth control from your device to a TV, and that you can enable Chromecast, or you can enable your set-top box. Some of that can be done through Wi-Fi, some can be done through Bluetooth. Now, again, receiving messages requires numerous steps and tremendous training. Now, equate this ground floor opportunity to the power of QR codes. You may not today even know what a QR code is. How many of you have heard about it? Have the QR Capture app installed or use QR codes at all? Bluetooth beacon messaging has got the same training hurdle that QR codes do. You have to change people's behavior, that they can see a QR code, they want to go through the steps and interact with the QR code in hopes that they're going to get the benefit behind the QR code. And that requires downloading apps, and it requires other steps. Right now, you're taking a gamble on the amount of people that have a smartphone device that have all of those functions enabled in order to be in the proximity of a beacon, to be looking for that message while they're by that beacon. That's the behavior piece. Now, right now, the training only exists to demonstrate for the sale of a beacon. Because absent of somebody selling a beacon, walking somebody through all of those configurations, the probability that their phone is already set up to receive a message is slim to none. Slim to none. The only people that are going to receive a beacon message are those people that have received the training and are going to leave all of those settings open. One of the reasons I did not enjoy this beacon strategy is it required my location settings to be on. I do not desire to have my location settings on. I don't want a digital heartbeat tracking me everywhere I go. That's my personal hang up. I don't want my wife and I don't want my daughter to have that digital heartbeat tracking them all over the place. So just by default, because of my privacy mindedness for my family, I am not a customer for beacon technology. I've automatically excluded myself because I value my privacy more than I value the opportunity of what a beacon could do for me. That's my own stuff. Let me go back here. I apologize. Okay, so the reason I presented this was to help those that are exploring the proximity messaging. And I say trust but verify. People are alluding to my presentations that I'm exposing a scam. I have not used those words. I'm just speaking about this technology, and there's a lot of representations about this technology that require some verification. And if you don't choose to verify, that's okay. And you just want to sell this beacon, and that's your moral, ethical, and integrity is your business. I'm not here to judge how you're going to go out and run a business and make money and what amount of work you're willing to do and what amount of work you're not willing to do. That's none of my business. And if you are going to be making comments regarding the products and services that I'm offering to deliver true proximity marketing, it's very difficult for you to be critical of the value I'm offering when you haven't examined the value which I'm offering. So you're like a book review editor without opening the book. When I talk about the power of true proximity marketing and geofence communication and how I'm able to reach people outside of that beacon, if you're going to judge me, at least to have the cojones to buy the book, open the book, read the book, and then critique the book. You calling out logical fallacy argumentation in my presentations without having seen it, consumed it, or even comprehend it. What kind of person is that? And if you are not willing to reject this claim of calling this a scam, I'm inviting you to show me where I made a mistake. What of those points did I not accurately, or maybe I need to provide more context about it, but give me a response. Go in the comments of this video, send me a communication through another method, and show me where I'm wrong. Point out to me where I'm wrong in these representations. There are people making statements out there, and this is the test to say, is this true? And if I am incorrect in anything that I'm saying, please provide me the data and the evidence to show me that I'm incorrect. Because if at the end of this, you interpret those representations by others in a negative light, that's not my goal. I'm just saying, I'm giving you more data. I'm giving you the ability to verify what you may have heard being presented elsewhere, and it's up to you to reconcile in the quest of a knowable truth. Generally, truth requires evidence and data. I'm giving you, people tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong. Person out there making horrible statements about the Better Business Bureau, and they actually libeled themselves in some of the statements that they made about the Better Business Bureau. And amazingly, that video disappeared, that they had to take that video down because they weren't making truthful statements. When you libel and you speak mistruths, you're going to be get a takedown notice. And this is one of those things that if you make a claim on here, please bring it to my attention. Tell me where I'm wrong. Show me the evidence so I can redo the video and I can bring additional clarity to it. This is meant to help those people that are exploring proximity marketing and go for the trust based upon the verification. If it sounds too good to be true, examine if it's really true. That's all. And if people see this interpreted as a scam, that is not my intention at all, and I don't use those words other than response to people making a claim that I'm representing it as such. No way, shape, or form. I believe in establishing relationships with my clients which are based upon honesty, transparency, and maximizing value. I understand that value is not what I say it is. It's based upon what a client says it is. I want to give them something that's verifiable and audible and trackable. An impression of a beacon does not provide me any data of value to my clients. Now, you may have a different sales presentation, and your clients may accept an impression and may accept all of those limitations. They may totally accept that, and that they'll pay X amount of dollars a month based upon all these limitations. Might be. I'm not making that representation to my clients. My clients, I want to give them measurable, trackable, audible, and correctable data. But when I do my proximity marketing, I do things that are strategic, and I geofence them. And I'm not dependent upon that beacon. Beacon's an element, it's part of the strategy, but it's not dependent upon that. So I invite you to go through and read the comments at the bottom of this video and see some of my other resource material that I make available to you. Those people that want to condemn, please consume. If you're going to be a legitimate critic of my power of proximity marketing, at least consume the material. Either that, I'm going to use a word. It's going to come out biting. It's called ignorant. Ignorant means lacking knowledge. I'm not using the Latin. I'm not calling you an ignoramus. I'm just saying ignorant is lack of knowledge. You have no ability to substantiate a criticism of our approach to proximity marketing in a much broader context, absent of consuming our material and consuming our lessons. You can have your opinion on vapor and make things up, but just be very careful. If you make libelous and or slanderous statements regarding something you haven't consumed, you may be on the backside of another legal concern. Just drawing out that to your attention. So I caution you not to mischaracterize this in something that I have not stated, and you're going to re-represent this or represent this as something that it's not. You may be at risk. Have a great day.